Okay, welcome back, and now we're going to talk about writing constructor and what's the best way to actually write a constructor. The answer to that is not really, there's no silver bullet, but here's a couple of things that might be helpful when writing a class. So how will I use this class, and what do I want to represent with the class? And as we know, the relationship between the class and the constructor is quite, close, as the constructor is what determines how an object will be formed or look like when a class is called. So here are a couple of things to consider when writing your class and also constructor. Okay, so here's the first thing to consider: the environment and how it relates to Python. So let's say we are focusing on cars, and in this video we can, for example, imagine we have a type of van or SUV, and it has some characteristics which might be different from a racing car. But if I only want to focus on the general concept of a car, then I will probably want to model it in Python by saying what's the brand of that car and say the max speed of that car. So let's say I want to write that in Python. How would I actually do that? And what would I need to think about when typing the constructor? So let's say I have the car example, and we know that we can write a class by typing the word class followed by the name, and the constructor is written like this. To indicate to Python that I just don't want to do anything right now, I can type pass, and now I have my first and simple definition of a car class with a constructor that is empty. I'm gonna just display here this row of the comment. Everything below here is what we might call the outside. Basically, this is where we call our class, and every time we call our class, the result will be a new object. So if I would just do this, I'm calling my class, and I want to save that, and I could do that by saying like car number 1. Now say that I want to tell that every new car should have a name or a brand. And the way I could support that is by a couple of different ways, but here I can support it in a constructor by adding a new argument saying brand, and then I can assign that to my own variable. And just to be clear here, let's name this one in brand, indicating this one would be provided from the outside here. So I want to use this, and the way I do it is between the parentheses I type in the value of the brand. So in this case I'm indicated that I want a new object, please, and you can start and initiate it with the value Mercedes for its brand. And now we can try to print this. Let's see what happens. See? So why did I use this brand? Well, the intention here is I just want to model a car, or the concept of the car, in my Python program. And the only thing that's sufficient for me now is to keep track of the brand. Now, how would I think about if I say have a program that I want to track each car that I have in my program? So for example, I might have different cars in my system and I'm tracking them with some location, and in this case it would make sense to have something for the position. And the way I do this is to just expand this and add a new argument like this. And what I'm saying here, that in my program where I have this model of the car, I just want to capture two things. I just want to capture the position of a car and the brand. And this is enough for me. For example, in another program, say I have maybe I'm writing a game. In that case, I want to probably keep track of many different things like max speed, the current speed, and other different attributes. But for this purpose, we just want to illustrate how we can think about this constructor and how it can help us. So when I've added two arguments, I've enforced a contract saying that every time I call the class, I need to provide two arguments. So this one would fail, and it states here I'm missing one required position argument. And the position is something I could just make up, say right now it's in like London. And let's try to run that again, and it works. So this is just a simple way of explaining how you can use the constructor to adjust and adapt your different objects that you create. Likewise, say like I have a second car in my program, and it's also a Mercedes, but it's actually down in Bristol. And whatever you else want to do in your program. And that is also enough for this video. I hope you learned that in order to write a constructor, it's just not one way. You can actually decide for yourself how many different arguments you want in your constructor and the way you want to model your concept. So the main key points in this video is that look at the object that you have and how do you actually want to use that in your Python program. What will be the boundaries, what will be the context, and from there on you can then start to design your classes and the constructor.